Right, so today I'm doing a peace offering. So rather than calling it a channel, I'm not channeling anything. I'm going to call these offerings. So today I'm doing an offering about the whole concept of money, and what it is and what it has purported to be, us all using it, and what it really isn't, the stuff that we have used. I mean, it is to a certain extent kind of script. It would be script if it wasn't for the fact that they were vouchers and based on debt. So I'm not really going to go into too much of that idea and that construct today. But yeah, so we have been kind of in good faith been using it as like vouchers, which in law is okay, because we've been spending our what people call sweat equity. So we've been working and then been receiving that as sort of just reward for the efforts that we've made. So on a people level, for yourself, you can negate the bad side of it and say that you having good faith, just been receiving this for works done kind of thing. But anyway, so this is quite long. So also what I wanted to say was I was actually saying before that it was going to be offerings to do with just the Bible and the translations from the Greek and Hebrew. But somebody made a request to me last week to talk a little bit about the law, and this is one of my notebooks I was talking about last week. It's fairly thick, nearly finished, and a lot of it is actually about law, so specifically Black's law. So just reading through Black's law, and the words which we have been sort of told mean something, a lot of the time just mean something completely different and actually nefariously different. So we're using words and we don't know what they mean. So anyway, it's quite long, but I do want to get through it. I need to it's not cathartic, but I need to get it out into under the heavens, like spoken. Anyway, that's just me. So I'm going to do this. Okay, so in Black's Law, so I used the 3rd edition. In Black's Law, 3rd edition, mint. So obviously that's like, when people say, oh, I went to the mint to get some coins. So mint means the place designated by law where bullion is coined into money under authority of the government. Also a place of privilege in Southwark, near the King's Prison, where persons formerly sheltered themselves from justice under the pretext that it was an ancient palace of the Crown. The privilege is now abolished. So who abolished it to start with? Why was it decided to be a place of shelter from justice under the pretext that it was an ancient palace of the Crown? Now that suggests that somebody usurped the crown, and so those people who were being said here to be sheltering from justice were actually running to justice, which had been sort of usurped. That's what I think. Anyway, so just that's interesting. So with Blacks, often it gives you like a number of different like descriptions for what the word is. So anyway, so in terms of money, mint. So as I say, the place designated by law where bullion is coined into money under authority of the government. Okay, so let's see now. I've got my notes on it. So I've got mint as 1A, the place designated by law. So law, looking at what law means. So law in Black's dictionary is that which is laid down, ordained or established, a rule or method according to which phenomena or actions coexist or follow each other. A system of principles and rules of human conduct, being the aggregate of those commandments and principles which are either prescribed or recognised by the governing power in an organised dual society as its will in relation to the conduct of the members of such society, and which it undertakes to maintain and sanction and to use as the criteria, and that's in italics, of the actions of such members. So that is quite rambling, and I was surprised when I saw that, because law should just be, oh, this is, establishing and, delivering the truth. I thought it was going to be quick. But all this talk of societies and phenomena, it totally lost its vibe for me. And at the end of this, I will say that I believe we need to go back to what is called jus, which is J-U-S. And jura, they're both Latin, is the plural of jus. So if you were saying laws, you'd say jura. And then if you were saying a law, it's jus. So I'll get right at the end, somewhere, I'll get to what jus is. Anyway, so that's just preempting that. As I went into this, it kind of turned into a bit of a rabbit hole. Okay, so also, let me see if I can find this. Yeah, so when it said in the definition for law, it said recognised by the governing power in an organised jural society. So then I looked up society in Black's law. And society is an association or company of persons, which sounds very corporate, generally unincorporated, united together by mutual consent in order to deliberate, determine and act jointly for some common purpose. In a wider sense, the community or public. Now that's a wider sense, so those who deem themselves to be in the community or public are probably unbeknownst to the fact that they're supposed to be in a society which is generally unincorporated, united together by mutual consent. I could say a lot of people on the street would not say they're in mutual consent with a lot of their governing bodies. So being a member of a society is not really the case for a lot of people. So that again kind of negates, because that was a term used in the description of law. So that again is strange. It seems almost like law is seen as something which is convenient for those who have been given the authority to then tell people what to do, rather than they've been given the authority to do honourably what is right. That nowhere did it say that was the case for law, which I was surprised by. Anyway, so back to the first, as I say. So what I did was I started looking at mint, and then I made notes. So that was the first note I made regarding the definition for mint. The second was where it says also a place of privilege. Yeah, so I did speak a little bit about that. So I've got here, so the palace of the crown obviously dealt in jus, not arbitrary societal membership, an unnatural or non-natural or non-common law. So it seemed to me, as I said earlier, that this running to Southwark near the King's Prison, where persons formerly sheltered themselves, and who had the right to abolish it if it was a place, the palace of the crown. So this is again sounding very sort of anti-honour, you could say. Anyway, so the next thing I looked up was mint mark. So I'll say, before I say that, I went to a talk earlier this week, and I heard somebody was saying that goldsmiths, which I go into a little bit here, I believe. Goldsmiths. So see if I can remember what he said exactly. He said the goldsmiths on the land had realised that they only needed to carry 1/9 of the silver needed by the general people to operate the money. So what they began to do was they multiplied by 9 what they actually had of a metallic stock of real coin. So they made 9 times what they actually had in their treasuries, and they allowed themselves to circulate 9 times worth of vouchers, I think they called it. I'll clarify that a bit later. But yeah, so they basically flooded the market with what really couldn't be backed by their holdings, if you like. Anyway, so that's what I heard earlier this week at the meeting I went to. Anyway, so again, mint mark in Black's law definition: the masters and workers of the English mint in the indentures made with them, agree, quote, to make a privy mark in the money they make of gold and silver, so that they may know which monies were of their own making, end quote. After every trial of the Pix, P-I-X, having proved their monies to be lawful, they are entitled to their quietus, again in italics, quietus, under the Great Seal, and to be discharged from all suits or actions. Interesting. So, the mint mark, and after every trial of Pix, having proved their monies to be lawful, again, so then, because I'd already looked at lawful, I thought, okay, so you would, obviously, if it's money and it's, you know, supposedly issued by the crown, it has to be lawful money. So, yeah, so I've got here, to be lawful, the stuff just needed to be of the proper standard, which I'll go into later. Let me read that later. Yeah, so just carrying on, because I wrote that after I'd written all of the text on blacks. Anyway, so after every trial of Pix, having proved their monies to be lawful, they are entitled to their quietus under the Great Seal, and to be discharged from all suits or actions. And then mintage, I looked up next. The charge or commission taken by the mint as a consideration for coining into money the bullion which is brought to it for that purpose. The same as signorage, which is in quotes, also that which is coined or stamped as money, the product of the mint. Okay, so that's mintage. So that basically is, just talking about the bullion. And then the next definition I looked up was Pix, P-I-X, in blacks, because it said in the definition for mint mark, so after every trial of the Pix, this strange word, Pix, what does that mean? So obviously you're thinking it's something lawful and wholesome, and yes, let's do this thing properly, because, they're rich, and, you can afford to do things properly. Anyway, so Pix, this is what Pix means. A mode of testing coin, the ascertaining whether coin is of the proper standard. Right, so you have got to be a royal in order to coin money, right? So if you're saying that the only standard that it has to pass, and all this Pix and all this Great Seal and all this quietus stacked on top of each other with regard to, justifying the lawfulness of this coin you're producing, the only thing that you need to ascertain with this Pix thing, P-I-X, is whether it's of the proper standard, which that could be anything. A standard could be anything. So that apparently makes it lawful. A standard could be, that you've got your signature on it, which they did say that they put their, is it written correctly? Can anybody read it? Okay, great, standard, it's money. No, it's not money. No, because that's not the definition of money. Not here at England. At England here, it's got to be justified. It's got to be given that the one who's established themselves as having the crown has authorised it. You can't just say, it's the right standard because we went to the Pix, we had the trial of the Pix, and what is that? Nothing. As you've seen, it means nothing. So yes, I'll go into what I was about to read. First of all, let me just carry on with the Pix. So anyway, Pix, a mode of testing coin, the ascertaining whether coin is of the proper standard, is in England called Pixing it. And there are occasions on which resort is had for this purpose to an ancient mode of inquisition called the trial of the Pix, before a jury of members of the Goldsmiths Company. And then there's lots of case law. And then I looked at Pix jury. So the definition of Pix jury in Black's Law 3rd edition is a jury consisting of the members of the corporation of the goldsmiths of the City of London, assembled upon an inquisition of very ancient date, called the trial of the Pix. Now, okay, of very ancient date. Now, if you're talking about the City of London wasn't established in ancient dates, so it's all begins. So when I went through this, it's all beginning to look very sort of convoluted and pretense, and very chaffy. You're talking about money and law and the chaff. I was like, whoa, just endless chaff, Anyway, so a very ancient date. If you're saying it was the goldsmiths of the City of London, that's not an ancient date. City of London, I don't have the exact date of when that was established, but that was, I would say, a good deal, because obviously it was called Londinium when the Romans first got here. So by the time it was actually called City of London, oh my goodness, you're probably talking about 18th century. That doesn't qualify for very ancient dates. Anyway, so of the Picts. So anyway, so to my notes that I made about all of this sort of Picts thing. So I just read the top bit of Picts again. A mode of testing coin, the ascertaining where the coin is of the proper standard. So my notes were for that, the proper standard, and also for the previous definition in Mint Mark of after every trial of the Picts having proved their monies to be lawful. So those two words, lawful, in the Mint Mark definition, and of a proper standard in the Picts and the trial of the Picts definition. I wrote this. So to be lawful, the stuff just needed to be of the proper standard. Real law, which is jus, would require royal minting. Hence, the quietus thing, which is equal to a discharge and acquittal from the truth that they should not be doing it. So that is the quietus. Quiet, So we've sort of fluffed this thing up, saying it's a trial of the Picts, and it's all this sort of highfalutin methods of let's see the exact words, the privy mark on the gold, and after every trial of the Picts, to make it lawful. So they're saying the trial of the Picts was a testing of the coin to ascertain, whether it's of the proper standard, So this quietus is basically a discharge and acquittal of the truth that they should really not be doing any such thing. Hence the use of the Great Seal, obviously, which is, as it says, is sealed and is great. So, the common proletariat not allowed to unseal the seal and become great. Anyway, so hence the use of the term the Great Seal to cover the nonsense that they have only qualified as of having made the thing to a certain standard, and not having right or entitlement to do so in the first place. Hence again, thereof, being discharged from all suits or actions. Why would you need that? Why would you need that? So obviously this is serious. It should not be done. The coins that we are circulating, as I say, you make your own statement and faith as a people here on the land of England, as you use the coin, that you're using it justly in good faith. But in terms of those who are actually producing it, they have no such volition, because apparently suits and actions can be made against them with regard to taking up that office of printing, of coining the bullion. You can't do that. So anyway, let's see, where am I now? Right, so okay, and again, so another comment. If the City of London is that which harbours members of the corporation of the goldsmiths, then the ancient mode of the trial of the Picts is not ancient at all, as I said. That's, as I said, yeah, exactly, yeah. So the manifestation of Londinium, then London, is post the creation of counties. Nobody would say the creation of counties was of a very ancient date, and this counties predate London, because London superimposed itself on, Kent, let's see if I can remember, Kent, Surrey, Buckinghamshire and Sussex, I think, the counties. So no, it's not ancient, it's just something they just recently dreamed up. Okay, so I just also wanted to look, so I've got the definition for members, which was obviously when definitions for society, it said, is there members there? Yeah, so it said members. So it said the members section was in the law. So just at the end of the law definition, it says, the aggregate of those commandments and principles which are either prescribed or recognised by the governing power in an organised Jewish society as its will in relation to the conduct of members of such society, and which it undertakes to maintain and sanction and to use as the criteria, italics, of the actions of such members. So that's why I wanted to look up members. So it looks at society, an association or company of persons generally unincorporated, united together by mutual consent in order to deliberate, determine and act jointly for some common purpose in a wider sense, which is a liberty to say that in a definition in a wider sense, because that won't stand up in law. The community or public, so the people in general, again, in a wider sense in general, that doesn't stand up in court. So it's basically, you're talking about an unincorporated or incorporated corporation is what a society is, really, because you've got to be a member. Anyway, so the definition of member in blacks: one of the persons constituting a partnership, association, corporation, guild, and those are all corporate terms. So as a natural people, you're not going to come under a corporate terminology in your day-to-day life with your peeps, and you're not going to be called a partnership, association, corporation, a guild. One of the persons constituting a court, a legislative assembly, etc., one of the limbs or portions of the body capable of being used in fighting in self-defense. Again, so you talk about feudal. I thought a member was just like your arm, but in terms of what a member means, if they're talking about something natural, it's feudal. So the whole term member is a feudal term. So I've written down let's see, what should I go to now? Yes. So I've written down now, I think that would wrap it up for today. Yes, that would wrap it up for today. I've written now, we now return to jus, J-U-S, not law. Because as you've seen from the definition of law, it doesn't come into, it's not positive law. So, that's why we've had to put all these preemptive words before law to, determine it as honourable, because, law is not what I last week thought it meant, so we need to now return to J-U-S, which is kind of like justice, isn't it? J-U-S, not law. If you're going to quote law, you're going to have to say common law, natural law, or positive law. So anyway, just to give a definition of J-U-S in blacks, it's Latin, and it says in Roman law, it's right, justice, law, the whole body of law, also a right, and then it goes into case law. And it's succinct. It's what I thought law, the definition of law would be, so it's, again, jus, right, justice, law, the whole body of law, also a right. So it's like an entitlement. So it's like your status and jurisdiction. Obviously, everybody should know what their status is. That's never taught to us. You've got to know who you are. As you come out of your mother's womb, you should know who you are, what you are, and enjoy the land as you are, because you're here. Everybody who's here has a right to be here, and you should know how and who you are here, because, the Creator will make it all good for you. It will make it all good for you. You be you be in you. And the problems we've had are just due to others saying that we are who we actually aren't, and then usurping who they've said we are because of their belief of our ignorance. So anyway, just to wrap it up, jus, justice, in Roman law, right, justice, law, the whole body of the law, also a right, and then there's lots of case law, and then I then looked at jura. There might be a little bit more, but that's basically the essence of what it says. Almost the whole of what it says in terms of the wording, which is so different from law. It just went on and on and on and on and on and on. Anyway, so and then jura, which is Jura, which is the plural of jus, as it says, it's Latin. So this is the definition, not full, obviously. Jura, I should have actually put it in full, but I was so pleased with what I read that I didn't bother to put everything down. But anyway, because it was brief. I took everything, almost everything down apart from case law for law, because I was so surprised at what I was reading. Like, what? Anyway, so jura, plural of jus, is Latin, and it means plural of jus, rights, laws, and then there's lots of case law. So, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Went quite smoothly. Yeah, so this does say, and literally I'm coming off now, this book is quite big, and I probably have another, oh my goodness, if I think about it, I've probably got another 6, probably something like 6. I don't know if I'll go through all, I'll probably end up going through all of them. Yeah, so 6, I think everything will be in like 6 notebooks. Yeah. Okay, so that's law. So yeah, so it's going to be expanded now to basically, I think, everything of definitions. I think I'm going to just say this offering is about definitions. So, and the key issue actually with these offerings, and I wouldn't really be doing it otherwise, is that what the offering, try not to say channel, what the offering title is Me and the Three. So this is what this offering is called, Me and the Three, and that's me and my Father, the Son, who's my brother, and the Holy Spirit, who's not a ghost, because not dead, Holy Spirit. So I'll go into all that probably on another time, how I define that. Yeah, so that's obviously the Son is my brother, who is Yeshu. I don't like to say Jesus so much now because, you know, it's not really a big deal. I don't want to ramble too much, but it's not really a big deal saying Jesus, because, you know, I remember my dad, my natural dad, used to call me Ungo, which, and, you know, my best friend used to call me Inni, you know, and so you kind of, you know, depending on the love and volition of who's saying it, you know, you do like it. It doesn't sound completely like what you were, your calling given to my mom, pa, when you were born. But yeah, so I mean, he doesn't mind being called Jesus. It's just that personally, I like to use the Hebrew. Anyway, next time.